Welcome to yet another volume of Scottie's record collection on vinyl. And, tonight, while watching DVDs together, we actually more or less, I came up with the idea of looking through your Bee Gees collection. And there was a list of all these songs that, Barry, especially Barry Gibb, the last surviving Bee Gee, right now, wrote for other artists. I don't know who it was that was really stood out to you that you didn't think he had actually written for was on that list.
The one that I didn't think that he had written for was Diana Ross, Chain Reaction.
Yeah, from the 80s, because it sounded like an old Supreme song, you didn't think. But didn't they write a song for Otis Redding, but he died?
Don't know.
Yeah, I think I heard, I'm not sure, that, and this will go right into the video, that they wrote You Don't Know What It's Like for Otis.
For Otis Redding, yeah.
Right, and he died, so they took it back for themselves. Because, it sounded like it was written for his kind of vocals, that very gospel-style thing. And that leads us into the Bee Gees first. Now, if I understand it, this is actually their second or third album. Actually, their third. But they called it their first, because this is the album that really broke them. You just got this at a little local antique store.
Yes, at an antique store here in Brewer.
And my dad always loved this album. This has You Don't Know What It's Like. This has New York Mining Disaster 1941. I think, this is their big... there's a song called Cucumber Castle on here. And we'll be getting to Cucumber Castle on another level in a minute here. But this is the first pressing, I think, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. This is classic, This is the early Baroque sound the Bee Gees had. There's the old Echo label. Mm-hmm. Speaking of which, Cucumber Castle. I think this was a TV show they did.
Yes, this is a soundtrack for it.
Yeah, Barry and Maurice. At this point there were some issues with the band with Robin. I think it was drugs and some issues over who was going to be the lead singer or something like that. So they did and Robin did a solo album that's impossible to find now, but this is the two of them together, and there's some great pictures of them on the back. Wonder what this special was like. We're just learning about how, they were talking about how their humor was very English, and he's got a cucumber,
This kind of looks like Jell-O.
Yeah, must have been a very interesting show. I see a lot of Peter Sellers influences, but this was an album they did in was it 70 or 71? I don't remember what year it was.
This one, it says no date. 1970.
70, yeah. Now, I actually have this album too, the next one, but Scott just got it. Horizontal. This is the album that has Massachusetts on it.
Yeah,
and here...
the same time we got Cucumber Castle.
Yep. And you'll notice there are two other Bee Gees here. They had two other people playing with them. So it was a quintet at that time. Really good album. It's pretty uniform. I read something once that said if you like Massachusetts, you like this album. I can't disagree.
Mono version.
It's a mono edition. Mine's a mono. I guess that's the most common version. It's the regular Echo label at the time. We jumped ahead a little bit. Children of the World has a hype sticker. You Should Be Dancing. You Stepped Into My Life. That was later a song that Melba Moore had a hit with. This was during their big period. On 76 this came out. You just got this, didn't you?
Yeah. We picked this up at one of the little flea markets.
Yeah, no, I think I got this for you, didn't I?
Did you?
The Goodwill, yeah. Because it has a little cash cow, RSO, down there. Now this is... you saw this in my greatest hits video that I did on my own. But this is Bee Gees Gold. It's a greatest hits album from their early 70s. It has the late 70s RSO logo. And it's on RSO Records. But it basically covers things like I Started a Joke, To Love Somebody, Massachusetts. How
Can You Mend a Broken Heart?
Right. It's just their earlier classics. I've got to get a message to you. The earlier stuff, The Bee Gees Love Collection. Now, what is this?
This is a collection of their love songs, and it's on Precision Records out of Canada. I don't believe it was... It says it was advertised on TV and radio. So it was one of these ones that was advertised.
So again, it looks like kind of earlier stuff.
Yes.
The label is very generic
very
and
generic,
very
yeah.
yellow. Almost looks like a Peter Pan kids record, doesn't it? Almost.
Yeah, but it has good sound.
But you know, I guess they put this up. You know, Bee Gees, I guess, was that from the 80s or 70s?
This one has a date on it of no date.
I'm gonna guess maybe 70s, maybe 80s. I don't know, but you know, the Bee Gees were so huge at that time. Because of albums like this, I got this view at Goodwill. Main chorus, you know, Jive Talking, Nights on Broadway, Fannies on this. This was just the album where they really, you know, broke out and they got really big. This is, I believe, their second album on RSO. I'm not sure, but this was a big album for them in 1975. That came out. We were just talking about this, weren't we?
Yes.
One of my favorite Bee Gees albums. One of my favorite Bee Gees songs, one. And this also has, no, it doesn't have You Win Again on it. That's a CD bonus cut. But this is the vinyl version of the album. Great album from 1989.
This is, of course, they have switched to...
Yep, they're on Warner's at that point. Yep. They had an album called ESP out that you have on CD.
I have it on CD.
But to find that on vinyl would be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Now, these two records, Scott, I want to give a shout out to another friend of mine named Scott Gallant, over at Scottie's Record Shop. He did a terrific video on the Bee Gees, and he has a lot more albums than both of us do. And he really introduced me to this. There's a series of 3 albums, and you'll find the first 2 here. You know, and the third volume is kind of elusive, isn't it?
Yeah, I have not seen the third volume.
And I believe this is the first, right?
This is number 1.
And this is their early stuff. They had a song called Spicks and Specks and stuff like that. It's on that. You know, this is stuff when they were young teenagers. You know, they had a couple albums out, and I believe in Australia and England. And this kind of collects some of their older songs and older singles. And it's electronically simulated stereo, fake stereo as they call it, ATCO, reissue. When the Bee Gees were coming out with their 60s stuff, they reissued their earlier 60s stuff. And then there's Volume 2.
Volume number 2.
Has a purple cover. It's the same basic thing. And if you ever see out there in the wild Volume 3, it's blue. But it was in Butterfly. So there we go, Volume 1 and 2.
This was a present from Andre.
Yeah, it's a birthday present for Scott. I got that for him. Okay, now you're going to see the same album twice, and there's a good reason. This is your original of...
This is my original that I purchased a long time ago.
You get it when it first came out?
I got it probably a year after it came out.
Okay, so you got this when it was relatively new. And this is not a gatefold, right?
This one is a gatefold, yes.
Oh, yes. There's Barry, Robin, and Maurice. It's kind of, you know, weird to think about. You know, we know that, you know, Andy died in 87, but it's kind of weird to think there's only one guy left. It's this guy.
Just Barry.
He had a solo album out recently, and it's not bad, but, you know, you can tell he's on his own, you know. We've been talking about that. There's RSO label. Now, you've seen that RSO label. Let me get it in the light a little bit. Remember, keep your eyes on that particular label, because things are about to get a little different here in a minute. This copy, I guess, is not in terribly wonderful shape.
No, it's kind of scratchy. But
I was out of town one day for an appointment, and I came across this, which was in much better shape. And, you know, this is basically the same back. Open it up, it's the same image. Now, let's take a look at the inside.
One thing you notice different here, it does say polygram.
Ah, yes, there is some different stuff on the back. Let's see if we can get close to it. It says polygram over the cash cow, which seems to be glowing in the middle for some reason. Now,
first thing I noticed was the dust jacket, made of much heavier material.
yeah, it's like a cardboard. But then when you open it up, now remember that label you saw?
When I pulled it out, the label was way different.
Yes, as you can see, everything has been reversed. The name of the album and everything. And this is a Canadian pressing, isn't it?
Yes.
And you know where we are, as Scott Gallant also pointed out, we're so close to Canada. You see a lot of Canadian imports.
Yes.
You know, I was watching this. I was looking on this site called Rate Your Music, which a lot of people who are into vinyl should really go to because it gives you a lot of good information about these things and found out that Celine Dion, sometimes pronounced on the internet Celine Dion, actually had 9 albums as a teenager before she made her American breakthrough, and they're Canadian. So, you know, I'm sure those albums sneak around here. Canadian pressings, Canadian-only albums, you know. So that's the Bee Gees collection so far. I'm sure there'll be others that are going to come into this collection because... I
am always on the lookout.
You know, I mean, it's unbelievable to think, you know, just as individuals and together, how truly talented these guys were as songwriters and, and singers and musicians. I mean, I guarantee you, you know, even if you don't have any Bee Gees albums at all, you probably have something written by them in your collection. They just have that ability, you know. It's really talented.
And yes, I do have the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack.
Yes, I don't know if that counts as a Bee Gees record because they have a lot on it. It's associated with them, and you've seen it in 2 of my videos. So I think we can count that as a given. You'll know about that one. So anyway, enjoy your music. And if you are a Bee Gees fan, look online and see the amount of songs that they actually wrote for other artists. If you don't know, it's amazing. I want to give a shout out to Scott Gallant, who did a great video on the Bee Gees. Fellow somewhat Bee Gees fan of mine, Henry Hopkins, shout out to you and all my friends out here in the VC. And from Scott and I, enjoy your music. Peace.
Peace.